And the recording. Hi everyone, welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Rick Zanotti and I'm joined today by my good friend and co-host, Geoff Blanchard, or as we affectionately call him, Double O Blanchard.
Double O Blanchard.
How are you doing today, Geoff?
Good, thank you, Rick. I'm glad to hear that your Galaxy phone's working well, because I heard it telling you that the live stream was on.
I don't know. Oh, is that what it was doing?
Yes, because it just told you the live stream was on.
Normally my phone's muted, but nobody ever calls me on my phone. So anyway, here we go. And we are back, and I've muted my phone.
But it's strange, I've done that before, where so I thought, and then all of a sudden I thought, what on earth's that? And I thought, no, it's me clicking the live stream button.
That's funny. You're right. That's probably what it was. It's like, hello, we're live. Ding.
and you should expect it, but you just think, what on earth is that?
Sorry. There we go.
Oh.
Wrong button thing. See, we have four banks. I was on the wrong bank of buttons, so we're back. Mm-hmm. Hey, Geoff, so you've had now your LG OLED for a week.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your analysis of that LG OLED?
Well, I think it's excellent, but I think compared with all the reviews that are out there on there, I agree with a lot of them that they say you take it out of the box, you set it on you start watching something, it's still a great quality, mm-hmm. but until you calibrate the set, it's not a fantastic quality, and I was quite amazed. I put a DVD on there, and the first scene was a bit dark in the areas, and I thought I couldn't see things too well, but it was all good colour, nice and sharp. Then after I spent about an hour or two calibrating it, all those dark areas where I couldn't see before, I could see quite clearly. It sort of done all the colour settings so you could see it quite perfectly.
Interesting.
And people say, how do you spend so long calibrating? Because one of the things, it's got the white balance in it, but it's got like up to 100 steps and going in 5 increment steps. So in each 5 increment steps, you've got to do the brightness and the red, green, and blue.
Oh, you have to do that manually for each one?
Well, if you don't want the standard settings and to get the best out of it, and so you've got to go from 100 down to nothing in 5-step increments. So you've got to change those settings all that time. But that's well worth it. But somebody's done that with a proper calibrating machine to say that a black is a black, a white is a white, a red is a red. And they say that the other way to get it properly done is to get a calibrator in, which charges you for that. But that would probably be the best way. But when you're spending that much money on a TV, it's probably well worth it. But this person on the internet did say, well, this does a great job, but that's my opinion. You might differ your feelings, but I've set it to what the machine says it should be set to.
So out of the box, it's okay, but it's really not optimized because it's so. I've heard that from other people. I know a couple of people who have it, and they all complained about the setup. They said, and these are not techies, and they said the setup was rather difficult. But once they got through it, they said, "Wow, it was really beautiful." And one of them, I think, did actually have Best Buy do it for them. So they came out and they were pressing all sorts of buttons, and then it was fine.
But the thing is, what they say is they do it as a standard setting, but also the setting that they put it on is the one that you get when you see it at the store. So when you see a high definition DVD or Blu-ray, it shows you such clarity, but it looks like you can see the holes in their faces, which you usually don't want that.
Right.
Want that when you're at home, but for a demo at the store, it blows you away. But then when you get it home, you've got all these bright colours, vivid things that are just too much when you get it home, and that's where you have to. But then again, some people remember when colour TV first came out. I can hear. Some people, you'd go around and everybody's got orange faces because they had the colour tint, but they loved it. But I said, no, it's supposed to be natural, but they are colour, so we want all the. And now they're doing the same thing with all this, vivid colour. They want it too much. But I tell you now, when you switch it onto the YouTube, the 4K in YouTube, and get some just decent quality. Well, even my older just standard DVDs, I think will look so much better on them. And when a show finishes and you just have the titles and you've got that totally black screen, the room goes. Before the room used to go dark if you didn't have the lights on, but now it goes pitch black when the screen goes black.
Interesting,
because it can go black.
Yeah.
And as I said, that's what I find really amazing. Is and the funny thing, as I was saying last week, that the technology I was saying about the machine, it's just this TV I've started to investigate, and I've found out some of the things that this TV's got. My older TV still had, but I never investigated.
Oh, really?
And I never trusted the things like there's a. I said about registering for on YouTube, just pairing it up, and you can just transfer across. It had that on my other one, which I'd never even investigated in, because, quite frankly, before they were saying, "Oh, smart TVs, they're rubbish. All the software that's on them, just use everything else." And I must have just done that. Whereas now the software is only quite reasonable. Like Netflix comes up straight away.
Yep.
Whereas on my other one, on the box, it takes a few seconds to find it, then a few seconds to say log in. Whereas I just switch this TV on. If it was there before it starts up straight away. So I'm more than impressed with the quality of it.
Yeah.
But as I said, matched up with the OPPO DVD player, it's just. Just fantastic. I just love it. I've been watching. I've started watching on Netflix. There's got Iron Fist. Have you heard that one?
Iron Fist, no.
Series. It's a Marvel thing, but it's a new the one on Netflix. And this is the first one I've seen that Netflix have. You've got 4K. Well, now you've got Dolby Vision, which is the next step up.
Okay.
And that's the first one I've seen. They've got it in Dolby Vision. So now TV recognises it, so it clicks onto that. So the only problem I'm seeing on that one so far is it does excellent quality, but when you do some indoor scenes, you can still see a bit of noise, but I don't know if that's the way they intended it. But on the out, it's just blows you away, just the picture quality. And somebody else was saying they had one same sort of TV, and they're just saying just HD. It's just the quality on that. And I've looked at things in HD, and you just think, wow, where we're going to go to next? I thought, how much better can they get?
I know. Now, do you have a surround sound system?
Yes, I do. Now that's the next thing I've got to upgrade. Not that my old one's doing quite well, but it's 16 years old now.
Wow.
And now all of them have HDMI connections and that, but this one's just got a component and the old analog connections into it. And it's got the optical in for the sound from the TV or the OPPO, which is the main thing. But what I would want to do in the future, if I get a new one, is plug all my devices into the receiver and control it, and just have the TV on one channel. But at the moment, it's still working quite fine. And for a Sony receiver that's 16 years old, it still kicks a lot. And let's face it, the sound quality is nice, but I've never ever turned it up to its full capacity. It will still shake the lights on in the roof if you have it too loud with the subwoofer and that. But it just makes a big difference. But now this one's just a 5.1, and there's a fella round your way in Los Angeles called Scott Wilkinson that's on the Twit network that does the Home Theatre Geeks. And I like watching his show because he goes into a lot of these and what DVDs are out, and has some good interviews on that. So I've started watching him a bit. So
if you look on Amazon, there's a lot of Criterion Blu-rays that have been remastered. They're remastering a ton of stuff from the old days, and some of it's really quite good. And the prices are anywhere from $10 to $20, $30. But they're beautiful. They're beautifully remastered old classics. And we're talking not just old, but stuff from the 70s, 80s, 90s that was old. Or it was even just a regular CD. Now they're making a Blu-ray DVDs, and it's just really nice stuff.
Well, the one I got when I first got this was, Goodfellas with Al Pacino.
Oh, yeah.
Is it Al Pacino? Not Al Pacino.
Was it De Niro or Pacino?
De Niro. I keep getting them, but he had Robert De Niro, Good Guys, and Ray Liotta, I think it is, isn't it? So, and
wasn't it the other guy too? Vinny, what's his name?
The small.
I love him. He's hilarious. What's his name?
Yeah, he's really good. God, how can we forget him? I'll remember it as soon as we're off camera here.
Yep.
But I got that one because I thought that's mastered in the Ultra HD, and I thought that would be a good one to see compared to the old one, to see how they've done the quality on it. Because
especially wasn't there the barber scene in that one?
So I can't remember. I haven't seen it for so long.
I think it's in that one. I think that one has the barber scene that the boys from Camera Store TV did. And I believe that was Goodfellas.
Yes, it does. I think it is. Yes, it
was. And that was a really good scene because it's dark, and yet there's a lot of detail in that, and the lighting was really cool. So yeah, I'd be curious to see how that looks on the OLED when you actually look at it. It should be fun.
And also as well with the TV, there's a nice lot decent 4K content. And our one of the people we like to watch was it Martin Heilbronn?
Oh yes.
He's done a review of the GH5.
I gotta watch what he said.
And he's put it all in 4K.
Okay.
All in 4K. So he's obviously gone. It looks like he's been on a river cruise in Europe. On one of these boats, but it's just the quality on it's fantastic. And the things I like with Martin's reviews, it's more so like a tutorial rather than just a review.
Yep.
But it's also, it goes through, if you don't know what the menu, what things are on the menu after watching Martin's reviews, you just haven't been watching.
I know.
Because
and you know, that reminds me, I was subscribed to Martin, and I'm not right now. Now that you brought him up, I went, you know, I haven't seen him in a while. Now I know why. YouTube randomly disconnects you from people. I hate that.
Why do they do that? You would think they'd want you to be connected with more people.
No, it's weird.
Connect you.
It's weird. I really hate that because I don't get all the things I'm subscribed to all the time. And then, of course, you forget because there's so many different subscriptions. And then when you brought up his name, I went, how come I didn't see that?
And because he's done one on the A9 as well, so I've got to go to watch that because I just love the thoroughness, the way he does it, and also he doesn't get into likes and dislikes, just what it is, and that, you know, unbiased opinion of the camera, just what he's got in his hand at the time and how it's performing. But it still amazes me that GH5 is still. And making people still going out there doing lots of reviews, so there's still a lot of talk about it. So there must be selling lots of them.
I think they are. Well, let's see. Canon made a big announcement this week. They announced a smaller camera, one of the T something or others. I don't really follow those, but they also announced the Canon 6D Mark II. This is a full frame camera. It's been long awaited, and this camera is what a lot of people were waiting for, and honestly, I think they waited in vain. I was looking at the specs and looking at some of the reviews people have done with the pre-release models. They did some things that, as always, just amazed me about Canon. No 4K at all, though supposedly there's some sort of 4K picture mode, which is sort of odd, but you can't do 4K recording. You don't have a headphone jack, so video is not a serious consideration on this camera. It does 1080p, which is like all the other Canons. It's probably nice. It looks probably okay. It is a full-frame 26 megapixel sensor, not a big one, but bigger than an APS-C sensor. It has a vari-angle display, so it has the one that we like that you can pop out in every which direction. So they did that right, and it's a touch screen. It's a small screen. It's only 3 inches versus 3.2, which is a little odd since everybody's heading to the bigger sizes.
Bigger one, that's
I'm actually surprised we haven't seen 4-inch screens yet, but I guess that's only on camcorders. And there's nothing else illustrious to really say about it. There's nothing that just says, wow. It's lacking stuff. As always, Canon does it halfway. I don't know if Canon realizes that there are people out there that actually have 4K on every camera they make. High to low. I don't know if they know that. Every phone has 4K. It's like, what?
That's right. And it doesn't matter whether we need it or want it.
No.
Everybody's got it. You to sell things, you've got to have it. It doesn't matter. As I said, if an iPhone and a Galaxy phone, the new Galaxy 8 phone can have 4K, you're not telling me that you can put the same 4K onto a Canon camera.
Absolutely, and it'll look beautiful.
because they do quite a good quality just on the phone. So I can't see if they can do it in such a small package. They've got such a big box to put it in.
Yeah.
Why can't they include that?
So this week I was sitting thinking, you know, I have more cameras than I need. I'm going to sell my Fuji X-T2s. I don't really use them. They're nice cameras. They're barely used, so they'll be up on eBay probably next week. And I think I'm going to sell the 5DSR. Because frankly, even though it's nice, it's a very specific use camera. If I just want to take it and shoot anywhere, I have a 50-50 chance.
The file's a bit too big for that.
They're big, and it's a 50-50 chance they're going to be blurry. Because every little... Now, I'm pretty stable. I can get mostly good shots out of it, but every so often, if I'm not paying attention, it goes blurry pretty quickly. And it's a nice camera. It's a good Canon, but it doesn't really buy me anything other than really high megapixel shots. It's a 5D Mark IV, or even really a 5D Mark III with more megapixels. And that's it. It does take good video, but... It's still 1080p and it won't go beyond that, and there's no output of good clean video or better video. So the HDMI is pretty useless. It doesn't have dual pixel autofocus, so I can't use it for anything really other than portraits or long distance shooting, and I don't really do that much. Maybe portraits, but so I think I'm just going to sell it and call it a good year of having it and barely using it. I've got two GH5s. I'm happy with those. I've got a GX8 Panasonic. I've got a Homestead camcorders. I may get another Canon later if they ever come out with one I like. Because right now, if they don't have 4K, I don't want to get a cinema camera because I don't need it. It's overkill, and it's also overpriced for what it is. And the GH5 really competes very well with everything I'm doing. Now, I do have a lot of lenses. So I was considering, do I sell my lenses? Do I keep them? I think I'm going to keep them because I can use them with the Metabones adapter on the GH5. Right. Probably not for video, but for stills, definitely. And I may get a camera later on which does use. I may get another Canon if they ever do something like maybe the 7. Now my only hope is the 7D Mark III, if they ever do that. It's about due, I'd say, next year. Because the 7D Mark II last year was out about a year. So maybe 2 years. I don't know. It took them 5 years to do a 6D Mark II. 5. And in 5 years, all they could come up with was a vari-angle. That's it. And a slightly bigger sensor. We're talking 24 to 26 megapixels. Or no, it was a lot smaller on the 6D. And it has a whole, 49 focus points. 49.
Oh, okay. Well, they're all 249.
Everybody's at 240, 250, 500, and they're coming out with 49.
The thing is, like you said, with the GH5, it's a good keeper because it will suit you for a lot of the situation. Like if you get rid of all your other cameras and just had that,
I'm fine.
You can do everything. But as I said, you've still got your good Canon.
I've got
X835s or something that does you've got good ones, so you don't need any more. Even the X810s, I'll tell you what, people will be pushed if you put that in there and produce something and tell them the HD quality, and just they won't know that it's a camera that's 10 years, not 10 years old, about 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
It does such, but as I said, that's all you need. But as I said, you have that and maybe just one still, like you said, one full frame sensor that's just concentrating on stills.
Yep, and I don't have that now. But and you know, like Ken Wheeler says, and many others say, you don't really need full frame. Most of these APS-C sensors are just as good at many situations, and even better than full frame, especially in sports photography and stuff like that, because they're faster.
It's just people say more is better. That's what they think. Smaller, full frames. It's got to be better than a cropped sensor, of course. And you say, well, why?
Yeah, and so I don't know. I'm pretty happy with the GH5. It is doing. I have one GH4 too, so that was that was a really good camera. The GH5 does have better skin tones. It's looking better. Whereas the GH4 was a little bluish on everything, sort of like the Sonys. They're getting better at the skin tones. They're getting a little richer. So I think that's some of the new stuff they've put in. Better color matching. And, you know, if you have the chance to do white balancing, then you're going to be pretty close. Whereas Canon's got very good color. So does the Fuji X-T2. And the Fujis are nice. I don't mind them, but I just don't see them in video as well as the GH5. They focus well. They probably track a little bit better for high speed, but I don't do a lot of high speed tracking. We do mostly interviews, corporate videos. Nothing I do requires really high speed traffic or tracking.
And plus the Fujis, for doing your corporate work, just the recording time is just a bit too little. It's only about 12 to 15 minutes, isn't it?
Well, no, if you have the grip, you can do, I think you can do an hour.
Or the 29 minutes standard thing, I think. But then that's a good thing with the GH5. It's like a video camera because it's just doing that one file. You haven't got loads of mini little files that you have to organize.
Now, what I haven't tried with it is, as you're shooting, doing a pause like you do with a camcorder. Haven't tried that to see what it does. That's going to be an interesting test. I'll be doing that probably next week. And so that was it. The 6D Mark II. Some people are excited, but obviously those are people who never look beyond this. They're just stuck on one thing, and that's okay. You know what? Canon's still probably the world's largest camera company, though I do wonder they've lost, from what I've read before, like 40% of market share over the last several years. That's a big percent, but that's how much they owned. And they're still, I think, almost number one. Or they're very close to number one. Nikon, I don't know what planet they're on anymore. They're not even close to having good mirrorless cameras or anything else. They're going to have something, I think, in July for their 100th anniversary. I don't know what. Supposedly it's going to be a full-frame version of the D500. That could be interesting.
Well, the thing is, with all these camera manufacturers, I was watching Tony Northrup and Tony and Chelsea Northrup on their show, and they were talking about, said, well, most of the cameras are aimed at people like me and you and that, but all the younger generation said their child and that, and they said everybody's kid says, what do I want to be carrying around that big thing? And they're talking about a GH5 or a Sony A7 that's so small. So why would I take a bag and put that into that when I've got my phone?
Yep.
And as I said, somebody else was saying the other day that we seem to have gone backwards in technology, where years ago we had records and we strived for better sound quality. Then we got a DVD and we said, oh, this sounds wonderful. We got these big hi-fi systems. They had music and they played, and we said, oh, lovely, lovely. And now with the everyone's going down. Then MP3 players came on, and now we're happy with this really nice sound through these little earphones.
I know.
And now people are they're buying all this music on this, but it's dumbing down the quality. The quality's nowhere near as good as is on a normal CD, or the quality that you can get. But people say, I want, and then you give them something that sounds just a bit better than their MP3, and they're blown away. But it's really, we're just accepting so much less these days. And I think like games on people, we had all these great interaction, but what gets people going is something like Angry Birds, which is such an old-fashioned title.
I know.
Basic flash game, but there's all these other ones, but they're the ones that are most popular. So it's just so strange how we get the better things, but then we dumb it down some of the time. Like, I know when you're growing up, the bigger the screen, the better. Like, when I was a kid, you used to have a 26-inch TV in the lounge room, and if you were lucky, you had a 14-inch TV in your bedroom, but you didn't want to go and watch your stupid small 14-inch TV. But now we're more than happy to watch a 6-inch screen on the phone with, oh, fantastic, look how big that is.
I'm watching my phone on, you're watching your watch.
Yeah,
look at that video, wow, it's
great.
YouTube.
But as I said, I wouldn't thank you if when I was a kid to watch. I'm not watching that on a 6-inch screen. What do you think I am? I'm crazy. But now it's just that people who watch full-length feature films on the phone or on their iPad, and it's just. But then we go to the other extreme with TVs, so we do have that. But
it is sort of funny.
I would have never have accepted what I said. I'm not going into my bedroom to watch that 14-inch. I want to watch the big TV.
Yeah.
So
I was actually strange. I got an email from Sergei Snegorov. He's the Branch Track CEO, and he's putting out his weekly newsletters, and this one had a saying from Charles M. Schultz, Peanuts, and it said, for all you people worried about the end of the world being today, don't worry about it. It's already a day ahead in Australia.
That's right. Yeah.
I went, that's so funny.
Well, yes, if it does end, I'll let you know.
Let me know ahead of time, okay?
But then again, I'll be gone though, won't it? So I won't be able to let you know. So.
But that's such a funny line. I go, that's so true. It's not the end of the world because the Australians are one day ahead of us. So
that's right. Yeah, it's
that was a good one.
Hey, did you hear also? Ken was the other week who was did one of his videos saying to people about don't buy your Lexar cards, don't buy your Lexar cards.
Yeah, they went under.
They've gone under. Well, not even gone under. I think they're stopping. The company who owns them has just discontinued them.
Yeah,
has stopped them. Maybe
it's Micron Electronics or something like that.
That's what they've just decided to stop. So I saw another one of Ken's, and he said, "Did I have anything to do with that?"
Yeah, but it's interesting because I have a lot of those readers. I've got at least 4 or 5 of them, and different ones, and they're good. And there aren't that many other choices of good readers. Yeah. I've had some SanDisks, and they were okay, but they didn't work that well, and they tended to break a lot more quickly, which is kind of a typical SanDisk thing. I was looking the other day on Amazon, and I wanted to get one of those Type 2 cards from SanDisk. It was like 128 gigabytes. I go, oh, yeah, they have them. 300 megabit per second write rate. And I glanced real quickly, and I went, $27? That's pretty cheap.
Right.
And then I looked again. I go, oh, 278. Ooh. Not so cheap. They're not cheap. I mean, they're good, but, on the GH5, I've been using just my standard 100 megabit per second or megabyte per second cards, and I've had no problem recording 4K. It runs fine. So,
well, that's the thing with a lot of these things. If you can experiment with the different speeds, sometimes you can get away with it. But it's like everything. You say the fastest, the better. But if you're doing sports photography and you're just doing a spray and shoot where you're holding your finger down, yes, you might need it. But when we just take a picture and then a few minutes later take another picture or do a bit of video, it might be more than enough. You don't need that as fast. And let's face it, the usually cheapest chips, the slower ones, because nobody wants them. But with that Lexar, even though if like Ken wasn't happy with them, but I've had a couple of them with my XZ1000, never had any trouble. But the problem is I'm worried about is we're always much cheaper. But it's also, if they're gone, that $279 one might just slip over to $329 now. Because who else is going to be there?
Now, there is a good company. I've bought some stuff from them, and it's been really excellent. And at first I got it thinking, I read the name wrong. I thought it was Belkin. We've all heard of Belkin.
Oh, Belkin, yeah.
But it's Delkin. DEL. They're excellent. They come. I bought some CFast cards from them, and they were half the price of anybody else. Those cards are rock solid, and they make compact flash, and they make SDXC cards. They're excellent. Delkin. And in fact, I was watching Peter Gregg the other day, and he said, I buy a lot of Delkins. I went, oh, he knows about it too. It's a good brand, and they strike me as very good engineering company. And so, you see stuff like that and go, you don't always have to buy a SanDisk, because I didn't realize SanDisk is owned by Western Digital.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I didn't either. I just found that out this week, and I went, SanDisk? Interesting.
No, it makes sense, though, doesn't it, really, when you think about it?
Yeah, because Western Digital, I never liked their drives that much. I've had some good drives. But they're okay. I usually use the black caviars, which are very good Western Digital drives. But I don't care for the cheaper ones, and they tend to make these drives that just turn themselves off. Green drives, it's just BS. And they're lousy. They ruin, especially if you put them on a network PC or a network server. You can't put that on a server. And people do all the time, or put it on a RAID drive. You can't put them on RAID drives. They're really not meant for that. They're just cheap drives that break quickly and frankly just turn off by themselves. And I don't like that. So it's been an interesting week. Canon puts out another lousy camera. Lexar decides to go away for a while, and they may sell it off, they may not.
Well, the thing is, what I was seeing was one of the reasons somebody suggested maybe they don't worry too much, because one of their big businesses is supplying people like Amazon, Google, all these big ones with memory. And look how, and you...
Well, no, what they're doing is the SSD cards, the big SSD cards, which run like beasts. So they're in the, you know what, they can make more money on probably one server than they can on 100 chips.
And that's what I think they're saying, that the data that people need in these big companies is just so much. It's a full-time thing. They can have a dozen customers, and that's all they need to have, and keep them going. And once you get tied into somebody and you need something, you stick with them. You have to do something catastrophic to lose that sort of thing. Because when it comes to data, if you've got a whole heap of one company's you're very reluctant to all of a sudden change just in case something doesn't match up with them, aren't you? So.
That's very true. And
there was also another little product I saw that was that B&H seemed to be doing some pre-orders on, was something called the Loop Deck Control Panel. Have you heard of that?
I heard of it. I didn't really look at it too much. What was that one?
Loop Deck, it's just, I'll just show you. It's this thing here, and what that is, it's sort of like a control deck for Lightroom.
Oh, yes.
So
okay.
So what that one does, it's so instead of where you've got all your standard exposure levels, the tint, the shades, the shadows, rather than that, so you've got all those ones in front of you, so you can look at your pitch and start turning knobs, because it's so much easier.
I like that idea. How much is that?
It says it was $2.99 the pre-order on that. And the thing is, when you look at Lightroom, you look at a shot.
I know.
And by the time you've taken your eyes off to look at your mouse, you've lost where you are. Whereas if you can look at it and tweak it while you're looking without taking your eyes off there.
And I don't know about you, but I don't like the Lightroom interface that much. It's I don't know. It's okay. It's not great.
But as I said, this should make a big difference to that, I think, by doing that, because I can see where people would get just that bit better control on that. And it was one on a Kickstarter that actually seems to have come through.
That's odd.
So yeah, because usually a lot of the Kickstarters have come up with these fantastic ideas, but the people put the money in and treat it like a store and expect things to magically turn up, and they don't.
Well, today I ordered a couple of things from Sweetwater. Marco Sanchez is my sales rep. I love Marco's. If he's watching, he's a great guy. I've been working with him for about 8 years already. He's been just great, and he sold us a lot of audio gear. But I got, because I really needed a mixer, I got rid of all the mixers we had. I have an old Mackie left, but that's Firewire, and it's old. It's 8 years old already. So I got a new PreSonus AR12. So the AR is, I think it's an analog recorder. So it can record analog, but it can also tie into USB back and forth at 96,000 or 96 KB, which is nice. And 12 channels, and it's got a lot of nice features. Plus, you can put an SD card in it, and it'll record everything you're doing live.
Oh,
so
that's good. So you don't have to have your computer. You can just do.
You could do it all in there by itself, or you could have an iPhone. You could have computer. You could have your phone. Anything plug into it, and also send songs, music, voice, whatever you want. So it's kind of a nice, and it looks like it. I heard it's beautifully built. So we got one of those, and I upgraded a couple microphones, because some of my mics are getting pretty old right now, over a decade. My Rode broadcasters are pretty old, and they're starting to sound not as good as they used to. But one of them, I think, is not. It's a little damaged, but the other one is sounding a little too gritty. It's like I think something's not quite right with it. So I helped the Australian economy a little bit more, and I got two of the Rode 1000s, the NT 1000.
Oh, but you see, the thing is, with microphones, it may not be the mic getting better, but it's surely the equipment we plug them into gets a bit more refined, and it doesn't doesn't use them. And then the later ones, the technology and even the cords that they use to connect change, and so it should, quite often the technology in the mic's still good, but it may be just the way it's dealing with that bit of electronics.
Also, there's another thing that can affect the mics. It's weather. It's humidity. It's dryness. We're very dry out here. And I don't know what that does to a mic. And also, as we talk to mics, there's always a certain amount of of moisture that we put on the mic too.
Spit on them.
Spit, yeah, we spittle on them.
I'm sure especially when you're when we're doing voice, you're close to the mic.
You're very close,
and you do spit.
And even though you have a cover on it, and it doesn't feel like it's wet, there's a little bit of micro spit that just really gets into the mics after a while, and that probably helps the capsules not do too well. But the NT1000 is considered a really great vocal microphone. It's only like $350, so it's not that expensive. It's cheaper than the Rode NT2A. But the Rode NT2A is a kind of bassy, nice kind of sounding mic. This one, they said, is incredible for doing any kind of vocal recording, even singing, whatever. Just one of the best mics out there. And I decided, I'm going to give that a shot and see. The reviews are almost 5-star on it all the way. So just some other mics to have to, besides just the shotguns. And yesterday I was playing with, I didn't bring it in today, I almost did, the NTG3.
Oh, okay. I like that one.
Which is a nice, beautiful mic. I think it's still about $800, $700 and something dollars. It's a beautiful mic. It's very bassy. It is
very bassy. It's a really good one if you want the radio announcer voice. It does a great job.
Yeah, because most of you don't know what we really sound like is this. Hi everyone, how are you?
Hello, it's my name's Geoff.
So these mics really make us sound manly.
Rick, remember you just saying about the spit and the moisture on it just reminded me of when I was in an office once, and there was this water cooler, where you get the water cooler and you put the bottles in it. And I said, "Where's the bottle? Where's the bottle?" And no, it's one of these that gets the moisture out of the air and does that.
Really?
And then till somebody said, "So I'm drinking somebody else's body sweat and it's quite disgusting."
It is. That doesn't sound good at all.
But it did with the technology. I thought, so you're really getting the moisture in the air, so it's all of the moisture coming off people's bodies, so you're drinking other people.
That sounds good, doesn't it? Hey, I remember when
and it just made me think, when you were saying we do this little spit, I said, well, that made me think, well, yeah, you just think all that stuff that's out there, it's just quite disgusting when you think about it.
I remember in the old days, people would go to salad bars when you could smoke in restaurants, and they got the cigarette in their mouth going, looking at this, and I'm just going,
all over that.
I thank God I'm not into salad bars much. I was like, ooh, that's gross. And people would go eat right after them, and it's like, you know what you just ate? That guy's smoke, which just went all into the food.
Yeah.
Ugh. That was gross. I remember those days. You go to Chart House, and it was like, I loved your Chart House, but no, I wouldn't get near that salad bar. It was like...
well, the people used to have the cigarette in the mouth and be getting the thing, and then you'd see ash dropping everywhere.
Oh, it's disgusting.
It's amazing how times have changed.
It is. And stuff like that was just not very keen, just not very good. Well, Geoff, we are at the end of our time. We're actually keeping the show to under an hour for a change.
Yes, that's right.
We've been having very long shows. When Geoff and I start talking, we can go on. And in fact, last time we were only on for about an hour or a little bit less. And my wife goes, "You guys are done already? It's only been like half hour." I go, "No, it's actually been over an hour." She goes, "Oh, you're done so soon? How come? I thought you guys go like 2 hours." I go, "No, it feels that way sometimes, but because we
can when we talk, but we're just very conscious of people don't want to watch us for 2 hours. We might talk for 2 hours, so 30 minutes is enough, but we will talk for between ourselves usually longer."
That's true. And it's no different than what we talk about here, so it's sort of fun. But anyway, if you're watching the show, please subscribe or let us know what you think. And if you want to see any particular products or talk about certain things, let us know, and we'll try to include that in our repertoire of all the things we talk about. And if you notice, we talk about things we like, or sometimes we don't like. But that's to warn you of what we don't like so you don't buy it, because it may not be good. Though, on the other hand, what we may hate, somebody else loves.
It was just the thing as well. Somebody else was saying the other week that they only review things that they buy. And sometimes I think, hey, that might not always be the best thing. Like, if somebody gives you something, you might be more apt to give it an honest review. Whereas sometimes if I bought something, I don't want to let everybody know I'm the fool who ended up buying a heap of rubbish. So sometimes your mind just says it's better when it's not.
Yep.
Your mind
funny.
just skips over a fault because say I paid $4,000 for this thing. I didn't know it's working perfectly. So sometimes I think maybe if somebody's giving something to review, they can be a bit more objective.
Oh, by the way, before we go, if you haven't seen Hugh Brownstone's latest videos, he's been doing a documentary video about a pipeline in Pennsylvania and some of the disasters it can cause, and really well done. He's done a great job with the interviews and the lighting and the people he's got. It's a really nice interview, really nice documentary. I think he said that was his first documentary, and it's well done. It's cool.
Good.
I think he's building it in parts, or it's maybe he's doing a series on it, but I think he's got like 5 segments already. It's really good. Hugh, good job.
Yeah, he does a good job, doesn't he? And he produces his things very well. So at the quite end, even the subject's good, but I just like the way he frames things. Just watch the camera work. It's just really well done.
Yep. So anyway, well, have a good one, everyone, and we will see you next week on Tech Down Over. Take care.
Bye. Bye for now.